اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله، يا إمام الرحمة يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين، يا علي بن أبي طالب يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله، يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد، يا قرة عين الرسول، يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله، يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله، يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله، يا أبا الحسن يا علي يا ابن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا، يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا، يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله، يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي يا ابن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا وابا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي يا ابن محمد أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا وسي الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. آخر حاجاتكم الله. يا سادتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا سادتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين. ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين آمين رب العالمين. اور محمد والے محمد صلی اللہ علیہ میں نے ایک خواب میں ایسے بھی شرف پائے ہیں میں نے ایک خواب میں ایسے بھی شرف پائے ہیں اور مجھ کو مجلس کے لیے لوگ بلا لائے ہیں اور اے قمر مجھ سے یہ فرماتے ہیں 14 معصوم اے قمر مجھ سے یہ فرماتے ہیں 14 معصوم ہم تیرا مرثیہ سننے کے لیے آئے ہیں میں نے ایک خواب میں بر محمد والے محمد صلی اللہ علیہ السلام کی چند شیف پیش خدمت ہے کھچی ہوئی ہے تصور میں کر بلا اب تک کھچی ہوئی ہے تصور میں کر بلا اب تک اور نظر میں ہے ستم و جور اشکیا اب تک نظر میں ہے ستم و جور اشکیا اب تک اور یہ اس رسول کی اطرت پہ ظلم بے جا تھا، یہ اس رسول کی اطرت پہ ظلم بے جا تھا، زمانہ پا نہ سکا جس کا نقش پا اب تک کھینچی ہوئی ہے تصور میں کر بلا، اب تک۔ اور جہاں اجڑ گیا گلزار فاطمہ بخدا، جہاں اجڑ گیا گلزار فاطمہ بخدا، اداس اداس ہے اس دشت کی فضا، اب تک کھینچی ہوئی ہے تصور میں کر بلا، اب تک۔ اور جو کربلا میں قیامت تھی بعد قتل حسین، جو کربلا میں قیامت تھی بعد قتل حسین، سنائی دیتے ہیں وہ نالہ و بکا، اب تک۔ اور ملا نہ اصغر غنچہ دہن کو قطرہ آب، ملا نہ اصغر غنچہ دہن کو قطرہ آب، تڑپ رہی ہے اسی غم میں الکما، اب تک۔ اور پٹک پٹک کے سر اپنا فرات کی موجیں، پٹک پٹک کے سر اپنا فرات کی موجیں، بیان کرتی ہیں روداد کر بلا، اب تک۔ اور اذان دی تھی جو اکبر نے صبح عاشوراء، اذان دی تھی جو اکبر نے صبح عاشوراء، اور فضا میں گونج رہی ہے وہی صدا، اب تک کھینچی ہوئی ہے تصور میں کربلا، اب تک۔ اور علی کا شیر علمدار کربلا مدد، علی کا شیر علمدار کربلا مدد، تمہارے چاہنے والوں پہ ہے جفا، اب تک۔ اور نہ جانے بارواں ساقی کب آئے گا زاہد، نہ جانے بارواں ساقی کب آئے گا زاہد، علاج گردش دوران نہ ہو سکا، اب تک کھینچی ہوئی ہے تصور میں کر بلا، اب تک و نظر میں ہے ستم و جور اشکیا، اب تک کھینچی ہوئی ہے تصور بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات۔ سورہ فاتحہ۔ ایک اور صلوات علی محمد وآل محمد۔ بابا کو روتے روتے جو زہرا گزر گئے، بابا کو روتے روتے جو زہرا گزر گئے، غل پڑ گیا کہ بنتے نبی کوچ کر گئے، اور فاقوں کے رنج سے کہ حضور پدر گئی، محبوب کبریا کی عزادار مر گئی، محبوب کبریا کی عزادار مر گئی، اور 18ویں برس نے یہ آفت دکھائی ہے، آل نبی کو چرخ نے لوٹا دہائی ہے، آل نبی کو چرخ نے لوٹا دہائی ہے، اور سبتین گھر میں آئے جو بے تاب و بے قرار، آسمان سے پوچھنے لگے اماں کا حال زار، وہ بولی نیند آ گئی ہے شکر کردگار، کھانا تو جلد کھا لو کہ بھوکے ہو میں نثار، کھانا تو جلد کھا لو کہ بھوکے ہو میں نثار، اور بولے کہ چین دے گا زمانہ تو کھائیں گے، اماں ہمیں کھلائیں گی کھانا تو کھائیں گے، اماں ہمیں کھلائیں گے کھانا تو کھائیں گے، اور یہ سن کے بے قرار ہوئی وہ جگر فگار، چادر زمین پہ پھینک کے چلائی بار بار، بچے ہیں ان کو صبر دے اے میرے کردگار، اب وہ کھلانے والی کہاں تم پہ میں نثار، اب وہ کھلانے والے کہاں تم پہ میں نثار، اور پیارو تمہاری پالنے والی گزر گئی، کھاؤ گے کس کے ہاتھ سے اماں تو مر گئی، کھاؤ گے کس کے ہاتھ سے اماں تو مر گئی، اور پھر تو علی کے گھر میں قیامت بپا ہوئی، تازہ بلا میں آل نبی مبتلا ہوئی، اور ماتم پہ ماتم اور عزا پر عزا ہوئی، غل تھا رسول پاک پہ زہرا فدا ہوئی، غل تھا رسول پاک پہ زہرا فدا ہوئی، اور سب رو رہے تھے بنت رسول قدیر کو، بچوں کو ہوش تھا نہ جناب امیر کو، بچوں کو ہوش تھا نہ جناب امیر کو۔ وہ شیر خدا تھے مضطر مغموم ایک طرف، سر پیٹتی تھی زینب و کلثوم ایک طرف، وہ پکڑے تھے دل کو سید مسموم ایک طرف، بسمل تھے خاک پر شہ مظلوم ایک طرف، بسمل تھے خاک پر شہ مظلوم ایک طرف۔ اور حیدر قریب آئے تو ایک خط نظر پڑا، تڑپے کچھ اس طرح کے امامہ اتر پڑا، تڑپے کچھ اس طرح کے امامہ اتر پڑا، اور لکھا تھا یہ کہ آخری مجرا قبول ہو، یا شاہ تم وسیع جناب رسول ہو، اور صدقہ حضور کا میرا مقصد حصول ہو، منہ سے نہ کہہ سکی کہ حزین و ملول ہو، منہ سے نہ کہہ سکی کہ حزین و ملول ہو، اور میری وصیتیں نہ فراموش کیجیو، اول یہ ہے کہ آپ مجھے غسل دیجیو، اول یہ ہے کہ آپ مجھے غسل دیجیو، اور دوم یہ ہے کہ شب کو جنازہ اٹھائیو، مردے کا سایہ بھی نہ کسی کو دکھائیو، یہاں تک کہ قبر بھی نہ کسی کو بتائیو، کتنی جگہ نشان لحد کا بنائیو، کتنی جگہ نشان لحد کا بنائیو، اور سوم یہ ہے کہ پاس یتیموں کا کیجیو، شفقت سے بولیو کبھی گھڑکی نہ دیجیو، شفقت سے بولیو کبھی گھڑکی نہ دیجیو، بابا کو روتے روتے بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات۔
We're here tonight to observe the Shahadat of Hazrat Masuma Qum. Tonight's Majlis has been sponsored by the Balu family. Please join me in reciting Surah Fatiha for the sponsors' family. And also let us remember the Namazis that were killed by a suicide bomber in Kunduz province in Afghanistan last Friday. So please join me in reciting Surah Fatiha for Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. Upcoming Thursday, we'll observe the Shahadat of Imam Askari alayhi salam. And we'll also have Risale Sawab Majlis for Marhum Sharia Masood, who was buried yesterday. So again, the Shahid program will have the Shahadat of Imam Askari alayhi salam and Risale Sawab Majlis. And before I invite Maulana for tonight's Majlis, please join me in reciting this Dua Shifa for all the sick and needy. And also let us also remember the people who got injured again in Kunduz province last Friday. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Amma yujibul muftarra iza da'ahu wa yakshifu sur. 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 Respectfully, I request Maulana to address tonight's gathering with loud salawat. Another announcement. We'll have Majlis Risale Sawab to commemorate the first Ursi of Sayyida Shehbanu Shamsi and Sayyida Asif Abbas Shamsi. This is going to be on Sunday, October 17th at 4:30 at Masjid-e-Ali. So you are requested to please join in. Thank you. Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. This is side of Surah Al-Fatiha for the marhumin of tonight's sponsors. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الباصقين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين وأبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وابتغوا إليه الوسيلة وجاهدوا في سبيله لعلكم تفلحون. صلى محمد وآله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. As announced, this is the majlis to commemorate the wafat of daughter of our 7th Imam, sister of our 8th Imam, Hazrat Masuma Qum, salamullahi alayha, salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. 4th day of the month of Rabiul Awwal marks her tragic shahadat, wafat, only at the age of 27, and a great deal of respect by our 7th Imam as well as our 8th Imam regarding this great personality. Before I get into in this inshallah brief discussion with you regarding her life and little biography, I recited this ayat from Surah Ma'idah, ayat number 35, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullah. All those who believe, all those who have brought iman, fear Allah, have the taqwa of Allah. Wabtaghu ilayhi wasila. And seek wasila to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wajahidu fi sabilihi. And of course, do jihad in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that you may become amongst those who are successful. In this very brief ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us the importance of taqwa, tells us the importance of seeking wasila, وَابْتَغُوا إِلَيْهِ الْوَسِيلَةَ, that how through this wasila you can come to me, and how with this jihad in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala you can attain the falah and success. One of the titles of Bibi Masuma Qum sallallahu alaiha is also that she was known as someone who will do be wasila for us near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why when you recite her ziyarat nama, those who have gone for the ziyarat of this great lady in the haram of, her haram in the city of Qum, you may have recited her ziyarat, and we usually recite her ziyarat on her wafat. That tells us that one of the words of the ziyarat nama of this great lady is that Ya Fatimatu ishfa'i li fil jannah. These are the words of her ziyarat nama. O Fatima, because her name is Fatima, ishfa'i li fil jannah. Be a cause of intercession for me toward paradise. فَإِنَّ لَكِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ شَأْنٌ مِنَ الشَّأْنِ. Because you possess a great status and a shan, a rank near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this was, of course, our seventh Imam has many children. One of the, as far as the awlad is concerned, kasrat al-awlad amongst the ma'asumin, seventh Imam had kasrat al-awlad. But you find, of course, eighth Imam is the Imam al-Ma'asum, Imam after him. But if you find someone to be at the highest of the standards and morality and peak of, her ismat, although not being part of the 14 Masum, you find this great lady known as Fatima Masuma Qum salamullahi alayha, Asma bin Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. So one of the features of Anbiya and Aimma is their ability to be infallible. And that infallibility, as we discussed in one of our lectures, is not something which is attained or acquired, rather. It's not something that you and I can work on it, do some sort of riyazat for 40 days or 40 years or however long time, and then we'll become what? Masum. This concept of ismat, ma'asumiyat, infallibility is not something which is acquired, which is not something that you and I can work on it, go to school, a university, graduate from there, and will have the degree of ismat and tahara. This is something which is bestowed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not something which is kasbi, it is something which is wahabi. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestows upon whomever he wants to have this, and therefore all the anbiya were at the stage of infallibility, and therefore ma'asumin are also at the status of ismat and tahara. Because the one who wants to guide you, if she himself is not purified, how do you expect them to purify you? One of the jobs of the Holy Prophet, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, as mentioned in Surah Jumu'ah, is هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة. That Rasulullah, one of his duties is to yuzakkihim, to purify others. How is Rasulullah going to purify others when he himself, na'udhu billah, according to some, is not purified? If I want to clean an object, water being one of the purifying agents, right? We study in the our fiqh that one of the purifying agents is water. Water can purify almost everything, that which is capable of purification. But of course, if something is najasul ayn, even water cannot purify that. Simple as that. But if you and I, or any object which is originally pak, becomes najas, it becoming in contact with something which was najas temporarily. What can water do? Water can purify that object or that individual. So water can purify anything. But if this water itself is mudaf, if water is also already mixed with something else, this water already was najas, do you expect this water to go out and purify anything? No, you can't. When simple as that, something which already itself has some sort of fault and defect cannot purify someone else. You say, well, then what about our scholars who are sitting on the mimbar and giving us these lectures and talking about ismat and taharat and purification, all that. Just an example, as me as a talib ilm sitting in front of you, speaking to you tonight over here, and I'm speaking about all of these attributes. Of course, this is relating the teachings of Ma'asumin who were sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the carrier of the original message. The carrier of the original message was Ma'asum. Therefore, others do not have to be Ma'asumin, as long as the one who's providing the initial concept and the initial teaching. Salawat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Marhum Ayatollah Sayyid Mahmud Mar'ashi Najafi was the father of Sayyid Shahabuddin Mar'ashi. Those of you who have gone to Qum must have visited his grave as well. He possessed this great library where he collected all of these books, many of them manuscripts. He fasted throughout his life for ujrat. That means he fasted on behalf of others, the deceased. You know, one of the ways that you can make up your qaza is after a person leaves this world, and if they have any qaza, of course the older son, they have to fulfill the wajibat. If he is not able to do so, then he can hire someone to do that. Ayatollah Marashi Najafi used to do that. He used to fast on behalf of the deceased, and they would pay him for that. With that, he collected this great library that we have as Saramaya nowadays. People go there, they visit this library, the manuscripts that are found in there are rarest of the manuscripts. He, of course, was a man of great intellect, knowledge, and purification. He started doing this amal for 40 days. You know, we have these different amal to be done for 7 days, for 12 days, for 15 days, for 20 days, for 40 days, for 70 days. Even the dua ahad is recited. If someone recites this dua ahad after Salatul Fajr for 40 days, dua itself tells us that Allah will raise this person back from the grave when Imam reappears. If this person dies before the reappearance of Imam, Allah will raise this man back, or this person back, this woman back from their grave to be what? Part of the army of Imam Zaman. That's the importance of it. So you do this for 40 days. Simple as that. So Ayatollah Marashi, he did this mujarrab amal, this khatm for 40 nights. When he slept the 40th night, he saw, and the reason for doing this was to find out the exact location of the mazar of Bibi Fatima Zahra Salamullah Alaiha in Medina. Because of course that's the mazar, we don't know exactly where she's buried. So he did this amal for 40 nights. When he slept on the 40th night, he sees 5th Imam, Imam Muhammad in his dream. Now, what is he doing this amal for? He's doing this amal to find out the exact location of the grave of daughter of Rasulullah. 5th Imam appears in his dream and tells him what? Alayka, upon you is bikarimati ahlul bayt. Upon you is the ziyarat of Karima Ahlul Bayt. One of the titles of Bibi Masuma Qum Salamullah Alaiha is Karima Ahlul Bayt. Karima comes from Karim, the one who's generous, the one who's noble, the one who possesses Karamat. Alayka bi Karimati Ahlul Bayt. This person wakes up, he says, I'm trying to find the grave site of Bibi Zahra Salamullah Alaiha, and 5th Imam is telling me, go do the ziyarat of Masuma Qum. And he deduces from this that Imam is telling him that if you want to do the ziyarat of Janab al-Sayyida until the actual grave is found, upon you is to do the ziyarat of Masuma Qum that has the same level of grandeur and taqaddus. So the taqaddus and the grandeur of the ziyarat of Janab al-Sayyida is equal to the ziyarat of Bibi Masuma Qum, because we know where she is buried. So therefore, it becomes so important for us to go and do the ziyarat of this great lady if you want to find the thawab of the ziyarat of Hazrat Fatima Zahra Salamullahi Alaiha. Salawat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In the next 10 minutes, what I want to focus on, and I want your attention toward it, is the life of Hazrat Masuma Qum and the lessons that we can derive from her life. I'll mention 5 objects. And each object requires elaboration, but I will trust, inshallah, in your ability to look at, of course, we've been attending majalis for so many years. The day of result, if you want to call it, of our Majlis-e-Ali is coming up. 2 months and 9 days of Azad is coming to conclusion on this Thursday. This Thursday night will mark the Shahadat of our 11th Imam, and we extend Ayyam Azad until his Shahadat. So Friday will be the day of his Shahadat. Saturday will be 9th of Rabiul Awwal. Usually on the 9th of Rabiul Awwal, not that Imam Hussein's commemoration has ended. No. Azad that was commemorated for 2.5 months comes to conclusion. That means we can now go back to celebrating our, of course, things that we celebrate, like the Wiladat of Masumi. We go back to celebrating our own, programs and whatnot. But this is up until this moment, out of respect, we don't celebrate anything. It is something which is a custom. But every year when that day comes, that 9th of Rabiul Awwal, it is the day for accountability. It should be the day for accountability for all of us. That we look at and hold ourselves accountable that what we gained in 2.5 months. Was it just to come and shed tears? Of course, for that is also a great reward. Wajabat lahul Jannah. Jannah is rewarded for someone who comes and sheds tears just by sitting in Majlis-e-Ali and commemorating. But the higher reward is for someone who is able to purify himself. Higher reward and degrees for someone who comes out of Majalis-e-Ali a better person. Muharram al-Haram and Ramadan al-Mubarak serve that purpose. That 1 month of Riyazat, that 2.5 months of Majalis is similar to the Amal al-Mujarrab that people do for 40 days or 40 nights or 70 days or 70 nights. This is how one should look at it. And when you come out of this ibadat, you should be a different person. Inshallah, that day for accountability is coming up this coming Friday. So we should be all prepared for that. We should do our what? Self-evaluation. It's the day for self-evaluation. We should evaluate ourselves. What have we gained? If we gained anything. And it shouldn't be the case that we lost anything as far as our iman is concerned. Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib said, no 2 days should be equal for a mu'min. This tomorrow should always be superior to your yesterday. So if that's not the case, then we haven't paid full respect and tribute to Sayyid al-Shuhada. 5 things I'll mention about Bibi Masuma Qum. Number 1, her love for the family and absolute tabi'at, that means following. A lot of time you find people are raised and brought up in good families, but they're unable to keep up with the values of that family because the society becomes that, plays that role. A lot of times the society ends up deviating us from the path. Many of these sort of things happen. It happens normally in our societies, in our families. We see that parents are very good. The elder children were very good, but the younger kids, they lost the path. They went astray. They went in the wrong direction. Or we find that the parents were really good, but the children did not turn out to be the way we expected them to be. And it could be vice versa as well. The parents were not that great, but the children, because they were attached with the majalis or with such masjid, with Imam Barga, had the sense of religiosity, they ended up being better than their parents. Or the impact of Islamic school, the impact of Sunday school had upon them so much that they ended up being better Muslims and followers of Ahlul Bayt than their fathers and their mothers. So this is where we find that in the family of Ma'asumin, even that was the case. That a lot of the family members, they lost their way. They didn't stay on the right path and the correct path because of the environment of this village. It's the household of Imam Masum. And even there you find these sort of lapses in the family members, absolutely. There were family members, there were kids who went astray, who lost the path. Some of them stood up against their own father, they stood up against the Imam of the time as well. This is something which you find in the history. But in regards to Hazrat Masuma Qum salamullah alaiha, she is that shining star that her father can take pride in her as well. Her father takes pride in her. Imam Ma'asum, Hazrat Imam Musa Qum is taking pride in his own daughter. You find that there are many children that Imam Musa Qum has. But if he takes pride in someone, it is this daughter of his who's not Ma'asum with the lineage from the aspect of 14 Ma'asumin. But she's at the level where nothing could be superior to that. So her love for the family and the complete following. Number two, she did not just grow up in a family of scholars and ulama and infallibles and ma'asumin and did not benefit anything. No, she was herself danishmand kamil. That means a complete scholar in herself. She utilized, a lot of times what happens that you find people who live, there were many people who were with Rasulullah, spent many years with the Holy Prophet. What did they gain out of it? They still remain Abu Jahl. They still remain Abu Sufyan. They still remain Abu Lahab. And many others who spend many years in the company of Rasulullah, yet gain nothing. If anything, it increased in their own suffering. So it's not about being with someone that you automatically become, knowledgeable. They say, well, if you are amongst the flowers, you will develop the fragrance of the flower. Not true sometimes. It is a good thing to have a good company. But we have the examples of people who were with Rasulullah. Biggest of the examples is Zubair ibn Awan. Talha and Zubair. Zubair is someone who stands up against the oppression that was done on the Rabbi Fatima Zahra. He's amongst the 7 people who were in the Janaza of Janab Sayyidah. But what happened to Zubair? What happened to Talha? Aqibat bil khair? No. They stood up against Amir al-Mu'mineen in the Battle of Jamal. They destroyed their akhirat. So a lot of time you are in good company, but then the world can easily deviate you. So we find the second attribute is that she was, Janab Masuma Qum, she was a scholar herself, danishmand. Why? Prophet of Islam said, Talibul ilm bain al-juhal kal-hayy bain al-amwat. A student of ilm between juhal, the ignorant, is like someone who's alive amongst those who are dead. That's the level of an individual who possesses knowledge. So she was so knowledgeable that merely visiting a city by the name Qum for 17 days and then passing away in that city, the tragic death of hers, that as she was making her way from Medina to go see her brother, and she goes to Savi, she falls sick, they bring her to the city of Qum, the street which is known as Noor Street now, she passes away over there. The impact of her being in that city for merely a couple of weeks is what? Today, Qum becomes that mecca of knowledge of Ulum Ahl Bayt. So that is all with the barakat and the scholarly level of Bibi Masuma Qum salamullahi alayha wa Bibi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Third attribute is her shaja'at, her bravery. This is something which runs in the veins of the children of Ahlul Bayt. Shaja'at, of standing up. Many times we say, well, the ladies, let's just keep them in the back. Let the men go in front and let them take the lead. True, Masumin did that too. But whenever the time and the occasion rose, the women in the family of household did not refrain back from anything. When it was the duty for Janab Zainab, if it was in her hands, she would have remained in her hijab all life long. If you had given her the choice, if Allah had given her the choice to remain in hijab all her life, she would have. But the time demands that she should carry on the torch and the baton from Imam Hussein. She has to, even if her veil is snatched from her. She doesn't want, that's not the ideal situation for her. Even if the chadar is taken away from her, but she has to deliver that message. You think Zainab is going to back down? Look at the bravery of Zainab Salamullah alaiha, that when people hear the words of Bibi Zainab in the streets of Kufa, they think as if Amirul Mu'mineen is speaking. She speaks in the lahan and the lahja of her father Ali ibn Abi Talib. Masuma Qum is the same way, the shuja'at and the bravery that she showed, saying that if I have to leave, if I have to get up, if Ma'mun is being barbaric toward my brother, I will stand up and take this, stand in protest. She makes this caravan moving toward the Mashhad, but of course, she does not complete it. She ends up being in Qum and her wafat takes place. So that's number 3, her shaja'at and her bravery. Number 4, she was the full supporter of the vilayat of Imam Abu Hamiya vilayat. That is a duty for all of us as well. We hear the ayat, Atiullah wa Atiur Rasul wa ulil amr minkum. We have to obey Allah, we have to obey the Rasul, we have to obey the ulil amr of the time, which is the Imam of our time, Imam Zamana, Ajjalallahu ta'ala, Farajahu Sharif. One of the tests of the people in their lives is that they are tested with this wilayat, showing the love, and not just the love, but also be able to stand up. How many examples do we have? I don't have time to go into examples of Mithal al-Tammar, Kumayl ibn Ziyad, right? Qambar. All of these are examples of those who stood up for the vilayat of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Even if their tongues were snatched, if they were grabbed from their back, and if they were hanged, even then they did not let go of the vilayat. They could have easily done taqiyya on occasions. If Ibn Ziyad is forcing Muslim ibn Aqil, if Hajjaj is forcing Kumayl and others, they're going to be easily turned away. If Ibn Ziyad is forcing Mitham al-Tammar to follow someone other than Ali, he could have easily done so, and nothing would have changed. But even Mitham al-Tammar speaks truth. In fact, he stands up against Ibn Ziyad and says, when they were debating, Ibn Ziyad, indeed, I will kill you. Mitham said, yes. My Mawla had predicted that I would be killed from your hands. And he predicted that you would hang me from the tree. He said, let me prove you wrong. I'll put you on the tree, but I won't hang you. You will not die because of that. You'll die for something else. He put him on the tree, like but did not hang him yet. Misa al-Tammar, his tongue was loose. Still, they were not tied up. He continued to praise Ali ibn Abi Talib from the tree. People would gather around him. He would explain, and talk about the fadail of Ali. Ibn Ziyad was informed. This Misa, you forgot to kill him. He's speaking about Ali and the merits of Ali, and he's speaking against you. Say, go ahead and kill him. Hang him from the tree. So the prediction came true. And that is truth, because truth was being spoken from the tongue of Misa al-Tammar. Janabe Masuma Qum is also the biggest supporter of the vilayat, and for that reason she embarks on this dangerous journey to go ahead and be with the Imam of the time, Imam al-Rada, and lastly, Talash, and the great effort and perseverance. This great effort and perseverance could be seen that she reached this level through her hard work, her own willingness, because if there were something like this available to everyone, then you would find this in the daughters and the other children of Imam Musa Qum. You don't find that in the lives of other children of Imam Musa Qum. You only find it in her life, in her character, to the extent that when a group of people come and ask question to Imam al-Waqt, and they find that Imam al-Waqt is not present, Imam al-Waqt was away. And that has been the case many a times, that Imam Masum is not there. People came from all this distance. Back in the day, it wasn't easy to ask questions from the leader of the Ummah. Just like today, in the absence of the leader of the Ummah, we have these maraji. We can easily send our questions, ask their representatives, and we can get the answers. Right? And majority of our answers are resolved. Rarely something comes up that we need istifta and fatwa from the marja. The majority of things are really resolved for us. There isn't anything that we are still battling with. Yes, new things arise and the new questions are posted to the marja, best of their ability, they give the answer. Back in the day, it wasn't easy to travel. You travel all this distance to come to Medina, and you find that Imam is not there. And Imam too, it's not like he's gone for an hour for some place. Travel was not that easy. If Imam goes, maybe he's gone for half a day, for the entire day. People came asking for questions, and they were disappointed. So they said, well, leave the questions with me and come back in the afternoon, in the evening. We'll give you the answers. So these people, they went away, they went to the Masjid Nabawi, came back in the evening, took the paper, all the questions were answered. They were relaxed, relieved that we got the answers from the household of Ahlul Bayt. They were returning back home. As they reached the outskirts of Medina, they run into Imam al-Waqt. They said, oh Imam, so glad to see you. We had gone to your house to ask questions, but unfortunately you weren't there. But we got our questions answered from your family members. Imam looked at the answers and he said, Alhamdulillah. And this is Imam al-Waqt saying this regarding his daughter, that may her father be sacrificed over her. May her father be ransomed over her. Imam Masum taking ubuhat, taking pride in his daughter to the extent that he says, may I be ransomed over my daughter. Look at the love that she had for Imam. She was born in the year 173, and her shahada is in the year 200. 4th day of the month of Rabi'ul Awwal, when she makes this journey towards Mashhad, but on the way she falls sick and she's brought into the city of Qum. She spends a couple of weeks over there and eventually her wafat takes place. It is mentioned in the riwayat that for someone who's ghayr ma'soom, Imam Masum had come to go ahead and bury her. Our 8th Imam, Ali ibn Musa, who was still alive at that time, who was in Mashhad, comes and performs the last rituals and buries Bibi Masuma Qum. That's why Imam Raza has these riwayat that whoever visits my sister in Qum, it is as if he has visited me. Whoever visits her with complete ma'rifat, Jannat becomes obligatory upon such an individual. 6th Imam saying that a lady from my family will be born and buried in this land. Let it be known that Allah has a haram in Makkah, Rasulullah has a haram in Medina, Hussein has a haram in Karbala, Ali has a haram in Najaf. For all of us remaining Aimma, our haram is in Qum. Because of Masuma Qum, she's buried over there. Realize the word. She passes away, her wafat takes place. She goes through the difficult time to go see her brother, but she was not able to see her brother. She left this world without having done the ziyarat of her brother, Imam Ali ibn Musa, but her troubles and her shahadat and her wafat takes place in a way that people were there to fulfill the last rites, and she was buried comfortably, and people go for her ziyarat, and many have gone for her ziyarat. But look at the trouble of her Jadda, Janab Fatima Zahra, that the trouble is that Janab Masuma Qum was only 27, but Janab Fatima Zahra was merely 18 years old when she was pressed between the wall and the door, when Mohsin was sucked in her belly, in her womb, and she passes away because of that blow. She was buried in a sense that only 7 people were there at her burial. She had given those wasaya to Amirul Mu'mineen that you would be the one giving me the ghusl and you would be the one carrying out all these duties. I would hold my hands in respect to both Bibi Masuma Qum and Janab Fatima Zahra, saying up until the last moment of your lives, your hijab was intact and no one dared and took the hijab away from you. You didn't have to parade from city to city, from streets to streets, but come to Karbala after the day of Ashur. You find Janab Zainab Salamullah alayha, her chadar has been snatched, and she is the one who sipas salar. She has to face these enemies standing in front of her. She communicates with them in such humility and humiliation that she is facing none had faced that. And that's why Imam Zainul Abidin, and it is mentioned that the head of Hazrat Abbas, which was raised on the spear, would always be looking down on the ground. Imam Zainul Abidin would also not look up. He would always be staring on the ground when asked why Abbas is always looking towards the ground. It is mentioned out of the respect of these women whose chadars have been taken away. ألا لعنة الله قوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. O Allah, please accept our ibadah tonight. O Allah, we've committed a lot of sins, please forgive our sins. O Allah, give us the ability and the tawfiq to follow the lifestyle and the teachings of Bibi Masuma Qum salamullahi alayha. O Allah, hasten the reappearance of our weighted Imam. Make us amongst the helpers in the source of Imam wa Al-Arwan alhamdulillah wa al-Alameen. Matam Hussain, Ya Hussain.
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein.
یہ ماتم صدا رہے اور اسے سوا رہے، یہ فرش عزا سبت نبی تا محشر بچھا رہے، یہ ماتم صدا رہے اور اسے سوا رہے، کتنی ہی اٹھے ظلمت کی گھٹا ہو، کتنی ہی تاریخ فضا، بجھنے نہیں پائے شمع عزا، کتنے ہی اٹھے طوفان مگر روشن یہ دیا رہے، صدا رہے اور اسے سوا رہے، ایک نسل ہٹے ایک نسل بڑھے، ایک شمع بجھے ایک شمع جلے، شبیر کا ماتم ہوتا رہے، نسلن بعد نسلن یوں ہی جاری سلسلہ رہے، یہ ماتم صدا رہے اور اسے سوا رہے، غم خارش ہے ابرار ہیں ہم، باطل کے لیے تلوار ہیں ہم، تاریخ کا وہ کردار ہیں ہم، مر سکتے ہیں مٹ سکتے نہیں ذہنوں میں ذرا رہے، یہ ماتم صدا رہے اور اسے سوا رہے، یہ ماتم صدا رہے اور اسے سوا رہے، یہ ظلم و ستم یہ جور و جفا کیا روکیں گے رستہ تیرا، بڑھ اور دو عالم پر چھا جا، تا عرش زمین پر چھائی ہوئی ماتم کی گھٹا رہے، یہ ماتم صدا رہے اور اسے سوا رہے، یہ ماتم صدا رہے اور اسے سوا رہے، یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین، اللہم صل علی محمد وعلی
السلام علیکم یا رسول اللہ، السلام علیکم یا نبی اللہ، السلام علیکم یا خیرۃ اللہ، السلام علیکم یا صفی اللہ، السلام علیکم محمد بن عبد اللہ خاتم النبیین، السلام علیکم یا امیر المؤمنین علی بن ابی طالب وصی رسول اللہ، السلام علیکم یا فاطمہ سیدۃ نساء العالمین، السلام علیکم یا سبط نبی الرحمہ و سید شباب اہل الجنہ، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين سيد العابدين وقرة عين الناظرين. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي باقر المباد النبي. السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق البار الأمين. السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الطاهر الطهر زيادة بي مسمع قوم. السلام على آدم صفة الله. السلام على نوح النبي الله. السلام على إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام على موسى كليم الله. السلام على عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا خير خلق الله. السلام عليك يا صفي الله. السلام عليك يا محمد بن عبد الله خاتم النبيين. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك فاطمة سيد النساء العالمين. السلام عليكم يا سبت نبي الرحمة وسيد الشباب أهل الجنة. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين سيد العابدين وقرة عين الناظرين. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي باقر المباد النبي. السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق البار الأمين. السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الطاهر الطهور. السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا المرتضى. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي التقي. السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد النقي الناصر الأمين. السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي. السلام على الوسيم من بعده. اللهم صل على نورك وسراجك وولي وليك وصيك وحجتك على خلقك. السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. السلام عليك يا بنت فاطمة وخديجة. السلام عليك يا بنت أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا بنت الحسن والحسين. السلام عليك يا بنت ولي الله. السلام عليك يا أخت ولي الله. السلام عليك يا عمة ولي الله. السلام عليك يا بنت موسى بن جعفر ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء. السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء. السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس وعنيس النفوس أيها المدفون بأرض توسلي بن موسى الرضا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي التقي. السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد النقي الناس الأمين. السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي. السلام على الوسيم من بعده. اللهم صل على نورك وسراجك وولي وليك وصيك وحجتك على خلقك. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.